Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for something a little bit different. As I've mentioned in some of my other videos, I'm taking a slight break from Path of Exile. Still playing it a bit, but just going a bit more casually during Legion because the League hasn't really connected that well with me. So I've just loaded up Dungeons & Dragons Online again, and I'm going to be running the Tangleroot Gorge chain, which, whilst it's not intended to be soloed, it's not, like, power creep in this game has gotten sufficient that it's not really difficult. You'll see the graphics are fairly dated. The gameplay is mostly pretty solid, especially at the lower levels. I think it sort of starts to weaken at the higher levels. What's happening here is that I was given a mission to go to investigate a hobgoblin outpost in Tangleroot Gorge, and I'm just running out there at the moment. This is a protracted run you only need to do once. It's not all that long, and if you're not familiar with the area, it's kind of cool. This character is, you'll see, it's got the fighter icon still for some reason. It's a rogue majority character, so 3 rogue, 2 fighter, 2 artificer at the moment. Essentially using the, taking advantage of crossbows. And I really shouldn't have been so lazy and should have picked up an arm cannon, but I haven't bothered with that yet. That's just sheerly out of laziness. If I was optimization focused at this level, I'd have one. You'll notice I'm getting small amounts of XP for completing these objectives. Generally speaking, you don't bother doing the outdoor area objectives in any serious way while you're running out to a quest. You know, the ones you get by accident are fine, but they're just not that good. I'm also just using any old gear that I happen to have, not really optimized for this character, so they're pretty weak for a multi-life character at level 7, but they're stronger than what a new character would be able to have. Now we're going to get to the NPC that is at the center of the quest. This chain involves a series of raids into the Hobgoblin Fortress, and you're going to then, you basically cut a deal with the previous leader, Chief Ungers, who has lost his position in a coup. And so now that you've run to him, you get to talk to him. He offers you some crappy rewards there, that none of which I care about. And his first mission is just to go in and butcher 20 of the hobgoblins that have usurped his crown. Now I'm going to be running this quest. The last time I played this game, there were some bugs that were meaning that it wasn't available on the highest difficulty setting, which is Reaper. But Elite, which was the highest difficulty setting that this game launched with, was available. And I believe that is still the case, but let's just have a look and see. Yep. So I'll step into the first quest on Elite. Because my character doesn't have amazing self-healing, I'm going to put up this, what I'd term a portable idiot. This is a hireling. These are basically player character variants that are NPC controlled. They play a character build that could be played in theory, but generally speaking they're out of date and pretty weak. Although this one's not as terrible as some of the others. You'll notice it's got 133 hit points, which generally is a good sign. Ultra low hit points in this game are a very bad thing because it's not tank and spank like World of Warcraft, except in some content. There's a lot of kiting and there's a lot of unavoidable damage. I'm going to call my hireling to me and keep him sort of vaguely nearby. Potentially I could get hit by a hold effect here, which is really nasty when you're solo, especially because I can't see the caster, and there he is, he's down. You can attack from range at you can attack while moving at full speed in this game, which is something that is a pretty broken ability in a lot of cases because most monsters aren't as fast as you. And so for that reason you can really use a lot of cheese strategies like that. Ultimately, in higher level content, the developers put in more and more abilities that constrain your movement.
The portcullis cannot be opened here.
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the first part of this castle. We're going to kill a few enemies as well. Elite difficulty, the monsters used to feel like they were hitting hard. They don't anymore. They do a bit of damage, but it's not anything that really puts you under a lot of threat at this level. However, that damage will scale up as we get later through the chain. So we'll open this. Although I haven't played this game much for a while, I still remember especially all the classic old quests like this that were very central to playing the game back 10 years ago. Even though I don't think it's played very much by current players. I remember these very well as a result of how much I used to play. You'll notice that we've got 8 left of the objective, soon to drop. You have a 3-way choice here. There's only 19 hobgoblins from memory that are on the main passage so far. So you're going to have to then eventually go down one of the side passages. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. I'll go straight forward, but you can go the other ways here. We've got the named character here. I will just kill this guy. Normally you'd basically try and get out of the dungeon as soon as you completed the objective, because you'll see there that I got 2,500 XP. It's not much in here, but it's only 87 for killing that guy. And I'll just hit this cabinet for a vial of pure water. That's a crafting ingredient that's actually that used to be in short supply. I don't really know much about the economy of this game now. Now, recall out is something you can do. When you finish a quest, you can always port back to its entrance. Additionally, during a quest, you can also retreat that way, but doing so will have severe consequences for your XP. Essentially, you're admitting failure at that point. And then you can come back. Depending upon the difficulty level, you may or may not be able to come back in, but if you do, you will end up getting a smaller amount of XP for completion. Had a couple of questions the last time I showcased this game as to more about its business model. Basically, most of the quests are free. It's gone quite heavily. When it started out, originally it was a sub-only game. Then it changed to a optional sub plus cash store model. Oh, just got to kill this elite spider, then I'll keep talking. Some monsters have that crown over their head. That means they've got double hit points and some particularly lethal special abilities. Stone Guard makes him, I believe it makes him resilient to my critical strikes and sneak attacks, but I'm not certain of that. Again, I haven't played much lately. Yeah, so on the cash shop of this game, and when it came out it was basically selling content, so I guess the equivalent would be if in Path of Exile, imagine if you had your core progression path, so your axe, and then you could purchase alternate leveling paths, some of which would be considered strictly better, some of which would have been strictly worse, but they'd have their own rewards. And then when you get to endgame, more and more, well, as you get higher in level, more and more of the content is purchase only. It also has the ability to earn store points through natural gameplay. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that the game developers ever made was making those a little bit too easily acquired through natural play rather than through target farming them. So the strategy that I'm doing at the moment, which is doing every quest that I can once on the highest difficulty setting that's available, excluding some of the very hard difficulty settings, but that will give you a maximum what's called favour. Favour is just a measure of how many unique quests you've done and what difficulty levels. and the store points that you get awarded for play are tied to the amount of favour that your character earns. You get quite a bit more of it than I think the developers may have originally intended when they monetized this game, and that has then led to them feeling that because they were a bit too generous with giving out the free points, they then started changing the cash store up to be more and more aggressive and having more outright paid cheating elements added. So, you know, you have your sort of standard XP potions that it began with, and then it just became instant massive XP boosts are available in the store. So they're not even trying to be a percentage increase or speedier leveling. It's just instant leveling in a game where a lot of your character's power comes from repeatedly leveling from... I think I've mentioned in one of my other videos about the true reincarnation system, which would be the equivalent of in Path of Exile. Once you hit level 90, you restart your character at level 1, but they gain one additional notable. And once you get back to 90, you can restart them again, getting again another notable based upon the class or based upon something about your character. These stack with... Whilst there is a limit to it, the limit is beyond... It's far beyond what any normal player would ever achieve. So we're talking, you know, if you think, again, to take a Path of Exile equivalent, think of having a level 100 of every ascendancy sort of... Maybe that sort of level of play is necessary in order to have a maxed character with past lives. It's pretty absurd. Now I'm just getting... this quest, I'm coming back in and saving a bunch of human prisoners. Here, your ally amongst the hobgoblins is concerned that the prisoners are being taken by the usurper, the hostages, that they'll be killed and that'll provoke an attack on this fortress. He doesn't actually care about their well-being, but he thinks it would be potentially detrimental to him if they were to encounter accidents. So for that reason, he sends you in. And you'll notice that I'm getting deeper into the dungeon this time. That'll be a major theme of the Tangleroot chain, and here's a champion. That one hits me pretty hard. That's one of the reasons I have the hireling, is because those champions can hit very hard. Worst case scenario, in the event that I get killed, my hireling can potentially take me to a spot where I can be resurrected. Players don't really get access to resurrection magic until... I mean, technically you can access it at level 7, but in practice is mostly level 9 is when players start really getting access to it. And before then it's expensive consumables, albeit not cash store, we're talking in-game